Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Energy Speaks Back, powered by Hark. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm also your host. Weekly, I present to you experts from around the world, and today we are in the UK on the coast. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. So before we get into our interview today, I would like to just recognise our sponsors. Clean Energy Revolution, who bring knowledge and networking into the renewable world. B2B Energy for their energy management and managing organisations' third largest expense. Hark Systems, renowned for their energy software. EcoSync for their heating solutions around the radiator system. Alexis Energy for their power management based in Australia. Led by Vision, who are an LED and a controls company. Watts, who are electronics and EV transition organisation based in the US. And Carbon Black Global, who are a waste to energy specialist. And lastly, our certificate partners, who are Esther Energy. Welcome to episode 56 and Energy Speaks Back, powered by Hark, and my special guest today, who is a website expert. And we're going to be exploring the impact of the internet on the environment. So be prepared for some shocking news and some surprises on the internet and how it impacts on our environment. Our expert today is passionate about helping small business owners to grow their business online in a sustainable way. So without any further ado, I give you Robert Mould. Good morning, Robbie. How are you this morning?
Yeah, good morning, Paul. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Have you started your morning with a BNI, or you just gone straight into your morning work?
No, I've BNI this morning over in St. Paul's, virtually, of course. So that was a nice 6:30 start. So the alarm clock went off at 6 a.m. But we've got a 6-month-year-old, so that's quite a bit of a lie-in for me. So yeah.
Brilliant. And is life for you still on Zoom?
Life is pretty much on Zoom. Yes, most of my customers, clients, they haven't reverted back to going to the office or face to face. There's a few meetings, I think, in the summer when it was a bit warmer, but now it's getting a bit dark in the mornings and colder. I think people are less likely to venture outdoors.
And they're quite happy to stay on Zoom. And
yeah, in their pajamas.
Whereabouts are you based?
So we're based in Eastbourne, just on the south coast, in between Brighton and Hastings.
Right, and you've got the cliffs near you, haven't you?
We have indeed, the Seven Sisters, the proper White Cliffs, as we like to call it.
The beautiful White Cliffs. I've been there quite a few times. Very, very nerving standing on them cliffs because there's no protection to stop you from taking a dive, really, is there?
Starts off morbid, hey Paul, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's there's no protection as such around there, and because of the reasonably poor weather we've had over the summer and beyond, the chalk is cutting out a lot quicker than expected. So the main point of concern is that there's the old lighthouse called Beltoot. So it's an Airbnb. It's been moved back a few decades ago, but that's under real danger of falling into sea very soon. So who knows what will happen with that one.
Interesting. So Robbie, we have met through one of my favourite pastimes of BNI, and quite a few months ago now. And so just for the benefit of our audience today, can you tell us about yourself and give us some background to why we've invited you today?
Yeah, so I'm a web developer. And I run an agency called Positive Impact Digital. And what we do is that we help build low carbon and sustainably run websites for companies, customers that are striving to achieve net zero, and also people that want to make their websites way more efficient, not only from an energy perspective, but also from a usability, speed, etc., etc.
And tell us more about you as a person. What's your background?
Yep. So I am a web developer. So I studied computer science at Kingston University back in 2005, sort of mid 2000s. And I've always been in technology. So I've had a mixed career of web development, working at corporate, working for startups, being in sales, pre-sales, and now I find myself running this new web agency.
When we met, we talked about obviously the websites and what's involved with the consuming energy and things, and people, specifically myself, we take it for advantage that we go onto the website, we go onto Google, we type search. We don't realize that every time we're doing these searches, we're actually creating a consumption that's been absorbed. Can you explain the process of, from us doing a search, where that is being consumed, the energy, what's involved?
Yeah, well, I guess we just take a step back. So the internet as a whole, with all of the digital platforms that we use, so for example, Zoom that we use, that we're talking on now, all the way through to the Google searches, all the way through to an individual's blog, it's all run on data centers. And those data centers, the amount of energy they emit in terms of carbon is roughly 3% of the total carbon emissions of the planet. And so that is the equivalent of the airline industry. And the reason being is that these data centers are enormous all across the planet. I'm sure everyone sort of realizes that. But the vast majority of them are not run sustainably. So whether that's the energy that powers them, whether that's the cooling system to cool down the servers, because obviously they have to operate at a certain temperature. The vast majority of these are just on fossil fuel powered or grid powered energy, or by high air conditioning, which we all know is not great for the environment. So what we're trying to do and what our mission is to work with businesses, small companies, large companies, whatever it may be, to build websites that are, one, really efficient, so that they're not using any excess code, or they're not bloated or using functionality that's not being used for whatever reason, but critically, they're hosted on data centers that's powered, one, using renewable energy, or by sustainably run air conditioning. And so there are some data centers in, say, the Nordic Circle, and there's some being, I think, in the States or South America, that's been built in the sea. That's been, the one in the Nordic Circle is being powered by fresh air cooling. And that basically means, it's so cold up there, they don't need air conditioning. They just need to bring it in through the winter months to cool down the servers. So there's lots of innovative things going on. And definitely the bigger guys, so your Amazons, your Microsofts, your Googles, they're taking steps forward to powering their data centers sustainably, but it's going to take time, as you can imagine.
So there's things we can do with our websites themselves initially to actually make them more efficient. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is, and the most critical piece, is the hosting. So understand, where is your website hosted? Most people just go onto Google, type in cheap web hosting or WordPress hosting, whatever it is, and they don't really think about the data, the energy that's being used to power that, or how efficient their servers are, etc. So that's the first thing. There's lots of renewable energy sourced hosting platforms out there. And then the second thing of all is actually thinking about all of the different elements on the website. So using things like images, video, creating lots of pages and content that's either not being used or not being read on your website, all contributes to the amount of data that your website is is the data that your website, or the size of, cut that bit out. You know what I mean? Like the size of your website, the more data it uses. I need another coffee. And so if you're just looking at every element of your website to make sure, okay, is that really needed? If not, I'll strip it out, get rid of it. So the more lightweight that your website can be on proper powered hosting, that's where you can achieve this low carbon or sustainably run website.
So if you've got old websites that you've got online and you've forgotten about, or you've got pages that, and it's quite easy to go through the analytics and look at to see what pages are being viewed and what you know and understand that. So it's an exercise we could do. And tell me, do you provide this as a service to go into organizations and reviewing their websites?
Yeah, we do. So that's the reason why we set it up. So there are plenty of web design agencies that will build, reasonably quick, efficient websites, and there are hosting companies that are actively promoting or starting up being powered 100% by renewable energy. But there's not any agencies that will do both. So if you were to type in, I want a carbon neutral or low carbon website that ticks all the boxes on the website side and all the boxes on the hosting side, it's very difficult to find, if not at all. So that's where we've set up or our unique selling point is that come to us and we'll build you that website, and we'll walk you through all of the steps of how we'll build it efficiently, but also how you can run it efficiently as your business grows or scales or whatever it may be. And also we can use various tools to understand, okay, this is what my website is emitting now in terms of carbon, and this is what it will be once we've got our hands on it and built it efficiently.
So you shocked me, but then when I'm really drilling down into what you said about the equivalent to the aviation industry, that's quite a shocking figure regarding the equivalence. But then when you look at all the websites that must be out there available, but more importantly, all the websites that are out there that are probably redundant. I remember I had website development there. I've taken it down, but is it still sitting there? Is there stuff still out there that could be cleaned totally?
Yeah. Well, the biggest opportunity for us and what we're targeting is actually the small to medium-sized businesses, because more often than not, startups or reasonably established businesses, they will go to a Wix.com or a WordPress.com, or they'll go to a web design agency. They'll ask them to build a website. But because all of these platforms have pre-packaged functionality and pre-packaged code, and they're built to cater for the masses, i.e., whether you sell handbags or whether you're a business coach or an energy consultant, they basically want to build a platform that caters for everything. And therefore, they just bundle loads of code, loads of functionality into the sort of the startup engine or the startup mechanisms of your website. And therefore, you have got so many millions of websites out there that if you actually stripped back what the code is actually using, what the user is actually using in terms of the code and the functionality, you could probably strip out 85 to 90% of that code. And so that's where the opportunity is, because most large corporates, they will have their own web design teams. They'll have a brief of, right, we want exactly this code, that functionality, wants to look like this, and they're reasonably efficient. Maybe not on the hosting side, but how it's built is efficient. Whereas small and medium-sized businesses, it's just, I'll have that, and that, and they don't really know what they've got themselves in for. So that's where the big opportunity is all of those small to medium-sized blogs, websites, brochure sites, e-commerce sites, etc.
So I said that word. Why do you think all this is going under the radar? Because that's a big number regarding the amount of consumption, emissions that have been generated for the websites. Why is it going? Why is there no one really focusing on it? Why aren't we being educated regarding this?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that we're trying to find that out ourselves. I think it's because, and everyone says this to me when I pitch to them or casually chat to them about it, is I never thought about my website having a carbon emission or even the energy that powers it, because I think you can't touch and feel a website. It's a bit like this Zoom chat. You can't touch it or feel it. Like if we were meeting up face to face, we could say, well, yeah, this restaurant is using so much carbon or energy to power us to be here, and actually I've driven the car X amount of miles and stuff. You can sort of associate some sort of carbon footprint or energy consumption. But for a website, when you're just on your phone or on your laptop or what have you, it's different. It's difficult to quantify something you can't really see the full end-to-end infrastructure of what's using. But when you peel back the layers, it's not just about your website and the hosting. It's the infrastructure that gets it from the hosting platform to your mobile or to your desktop, and that also is another thing. But that's probably for a separate conversation.
The figures that you were sort of referring to earlier, does that include all the 4G or 5G that we're experiencing as well? Is that all included in that? Is it?
No, this is just purely data centers.
Purely data.
Yeah,
that's purely data, isn't it?
Yeah, platforms is what it's run on. Yeah, absolutely.
And in your opinion, so a typical website, how much redundancy could you be seeing on that particular website on a typical?
Yeah, so typically for like a traditional brochure website, so say for example for you, Paul, promoting your energy services or whatever it may be, you would spin up a classic WordPress website that would have probably like 5 to 10 gigabytes of data in terms of the database and all the other functionality that comes with it. So we're able to strip out at least 85 to 90% of all of that data by just focusing on purely on what you need. And there's lots of web development technologies that's springing up that enable you to reuse code and just make things 10 times better.
So with that statement, right? Okay, you probably know where I'm going with this. So, sure. How many then websites could we say across the world would we have that we could then say we could save 85% on?
Yeah, so it will be
the volume starts increasing, doesn't it?
Absolutely, because you think
where I'm going with this, if you've got, let's take the aviation industry and the amount of emissions that provides, then look at the website, and then if we could then reduce web management down by a very large percentage, that's a significant amount of emission reduction that we could be making.
Definitely. And it's also, absolutely. And it's also pushing. So one, it's making the websites more efficient, but two, it's pushing these large vendors to power, or these hosting providers to go down the renewable energy route. And we are starting to see movement in this space. And I think with the likes of COP26, and I think people becoming a lot more aware of their digital consumption, and therefore I think just natural forces will get them to change and think about how they are being powered. So Google is going down the route of carbon offsetting and carbon credits, which I appreciate for some people it's very controversial, but at least it's heading into the correct direction.
You must have heard me say that I didn't want to talk on a podcast recently about offsetting. I didn't want that to be a subject. I don't really agree with offset. Unfortunately, we may not have any choice, but offsetting, to me, I'd rather get into the nitty gritty and reduce the energy consumptions. So what we're talking about really is all about the data side of it. What about every time I push send or search? Am I generating emissions as well? So am I generating carbon footprint?
Yeah, absolutely. So you think about and that's everything from your mobile phone. Obviously, that uses energy to view that website or that web page, whatever it is. It's also you sending data from your phone to the Google servers. The Google servers is then pulling back all of those web pages within their search results. That's generated energy. And then it's a case of Google that spits that back to you, and then you then click on that appropriate website, and then that's obviously then generating energy to then load that web page, and then whatever you do when you're on that web page is then of course emitting energy, not only again from your phone, but the infrastructure, the wire from your phone or your desktop to the hosting provider, and obviously the actual website's hosting or energy being powered, that's obviously creating a carbon emission as well.
Yeah. So in my world of energy management, if I was looking at a building, my key areas of focus are going to be the heating and the lighting and cooling. But when I go into that building, I don't expect everyone to be working under a candle. I don't expect everyone to be sitting there shivering or too hot.
Sure.
So it's a balance, and this is what we need to review here, because we can't turn around and say to everyone that you're not allowed to do Google searches anymore. We're not allowed. That has made a massive impact on society and the human race. Exactly. But there's some changes we can make to just make it better, and that's what I do within buildings. I just trim the set points, decrease the lighting slightly, turn the lighting off when we don't need it. And if we was to apply that form of management to what we're doing today, there's another area. So as an energy consultant, should I consider possibly saying, if I'm looking at their carbon footprint, we should incorporate their IT web-based systems?
Absolutely. So, and it's important to say that it's a balance. So for me, the way that I operate with my life and this business, we're not in the hardcore side of climate change and carbon emissions. It's still very business focused. So majority of our customers, they want to say, right, we need a new website, or we want to be doing the right thing, not just to be seen doing the right thing, but actually do the right thing. And I think that's also a key change that's happened with businesses. And so when I talk to customers about the green websites or low carbon websites, that's when it's a case of, okay, well, brilliant, that's exactly what we want to do, and we can promote that, and that's been seen as doing the right thing. So I think anyone that is in that mindset of going, right, I want to do the right thing, but I want to be balanced by it. I don't want to just strip away my website or not appear on Google or tell people not to go on social media or anything like that. But if I can help with my bit, then they're the type of people that we work with.
And are you able to demonstrate a value of saving when you build all this together?
Yeah, so it's quite immature at the moment. So there are a couple of third-party tools that will review your website, so it can identify where your website's hosted, and then it's got a database to say, is that sustainably run? And also it will look at how inefficient or how weighty your website is in terms of the amount of images that it loads, how quick it loads, how much data are you transmitting, etc. But that's something that what we're doing in the background is actually designing a proper platform that you can put on your website that will say, right, I've had 100 visitors today or a couple of thousand visitors this week. What was the carbon emission and the energy consumed for that, and then identify ways of reducing it. So it's still in its infancy, but I think that's our next exciting project, is building something that can truly demonstrate the savings as well.
Yeah. Another, you're picking on all my phrases today. So we just cannot manage what we don't measure, so we need to have measuring processes in place so we can manage this. I'm not going to start going out tomorrow and say, oh, I'm not going to do that search. I'll wait. I'm only allowed to do a certain amount of searches a day because I know I'm impacting on the carbon emissions that are impacting on our planet. So there is a balance, and there's also, I want to see that measured. Really, I want to start seeing that, and I think once we do start seeing that, people aren't going to stop searching. But I think it needs to come from the business side, where we need to focus on the types of websites we're using. I'll be honest. I store a lot of information because I store a lot of knowledge. So my articles, case studies and documentation and the platforms we use is all about knowledge base, and I'm trying to get the content out there. So I'm quite responsible, and I didn't realize how much. So we would look to see whether there's smarter ways. There are smarter ways you can do that, where you can click on a file and it compress or decompress or whatever it does. So we're not so that's something I would be consciously focused on going forward.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I am not an advocate for people saying that they should not go onto Google to search for a website or anything like that. And my focus is one on Google to accelerate their transformation for hosting renewable energy and helping customers or businesses improve their efficiency on their website. I think that would be pretty mad if I started a campaign saying,
I think you'll
don't
get
go on
lynched,
Google.
to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
You'll be known as some form of antagonizer that, we don't want you on our planet. Trying to stop people from, how many times has someone asked a question and you just go straight to Google just to get the answer, And
that's quite an efficient way of doing it as well. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
So, you said you've been listening to my podcast, so thank you very much. I hope you did it in an efficient way, under candlelight and with your jumper on. So I like to put my guests on the spot regarding, and I know it's slightly different because I've introduced you because you're applying our sort of format of energy management and savings through the website, which I was really excited about. I'm really interested in it. So is there anything that you can give back to our industry today that can, support us as a takeaway?
So I think the key takeaway for me would be if you do run a website, whether that's an individual blog or whether it's a large corporate website, is to do your research on the hosting of where your website is and truly understand, like you would do in any form of your supply chain, is truly understand, okay, is this going to deliver the service, i.e. the resiliency, the security, backup and all that kind of stuff. But two, are they striving to be energy efficient, to be green, to use renewable energy and do the right things over the next however long that what your business objectives are? Because all of the information out there, it should be public knowledge about how data centers are powered, what their infrastructure is. So my takeaway would be is do your due diligence just like you would do for any supply chain for all of your digital platforms, whether it's your website or whatever platform that you use in your business today.
And that just brings me on to another point, which we should have probably asked earlier, and that's upgrading. How often should we look to upgrading? Because by upgrading, we'll actually improve on the efficiencies as well. So yes, we can shop around for a more greener service provider, but then we should upgrade regularly, because I remember I developed a website many years ago. It must have been over 20 years ago. And it used to take ages to load up because I used very large files, large pictures and things. So we need to look at that, don't we? The upgrading of them. So how often do you think we need to keep on top of that?
So we traditionally look at every 2 years of doing a real transformation or a real redesign of the website, normally from keep the brand refreshed, etc. But from a technology perspective, there are new technologies that make web developing, either on the coding side all the way through to actually deployment and the running of the website, almost every 6 months now. And so we're using one of the latest technologies called Gatsby or React that make it super efficient. So I think it's just going to be a case of every year working with your web design agency or your in-house team, whatever it may be, to say, right, okay, is this the latest technology that can, one, deliver what we need, but also is it the most efficient way of building and running our website? So that it should be a continual basis, but I think if you look to it closely, every 12 months, you'll be quite surprised that there'll be much more advances in this efficiency of website building. And
we're seeing that, as you say, every 6 months. We've seen it move. It's going to be moving very fast, isn't it? This technology and software upgrades.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's only going to accelerate as well. So yes, it's an exciting space to be in, but lots of change naturally with technology is so fast, but it's only going to happen quick. It's only going to happen more quickly.
Well, Robbie, look, I'd like to say thank you for coming today and putting you on the spot. all the way
It's been
through.
an absolute pleasure.
It's been great. And I wish you really well. And for the benefit of our audio, Robbie's got loads of scarves behind him of when he went to the World Cup finals, and he's been to the European Cup finals this year, following good old England. And I don't think you've missed many matches, have you? Even the home and away.
Home and away, yeah, absolutely. Try to, obviously COVID has put a bit of a stop to it, but yeah, that's one of my big passions, is trying to follow England football teams around. There's certainly more heartache than joy that comes out of that particular.
Definitely more heartache.
hobby.
As a fellow Brit, I can sort of say that. But we have seen some happier times. We've got further than we used to get, which is even better. And we can't live on. You're not going to remember this, but you know the 1966 is the time we'll all remember. We keep being reminded about it, even though we don't remember it, because I was actually there. I was two, watching the World Cup final, sat in front of a black and white television. So I remember those days. So, but I'm sure, you know, we've got the next World Cup coming, so I'm sure we'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you'll be there, will you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Qatar it's going to be in the winter, so it's going to be between November and December. So hopefully the weather should be pretty stunning over there, which would be lovely, and just back before Christmas. So yeah, looking forward to that trip.
I've done some work in Qatar, looking at all those stadiums. We've done some survey work for some hotels. It was just far too hot. Yeah, I had to have a nap in the afternoon because I was too hot. It was so hot, but great experience. So, Robbie, thank you very much for coming. We'd like to wish you and your family safe during these times.
Thanks, Paul. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks.